All right, do we got this working? Yeah, we do. But you know what? It doesn't actually say the title I put on there. B bracket 9-man power rankings. Look, media. Perfect. 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 All right, copy text. Just making sure I get this right. I want to make sure I share it everywhere. Ross,
Yeah,
how cold is it out here?
it's chill.
Very chilly. You know, it's going to be nicer in Florida.
You around here, the weather kind of goes up and down.
Yeah,
Down there, from what I hear,
because you wouldn't actually know.
correct.
Because you've never been to Florida, have you?
I've never been to Florida. I've never been farther south than South Carolina.
You know what's crazy? You know, this is my 7th trip to Florida.
That is crazy.
That is weird. That's wild. I'm excited, man. I really am. It's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to what's going to be an awesome time at Nationals as we begin our. I really am. Let me mute that. There we go. Begin our Nationals coverage here tonight.
Awesome time at Nationals.
Thanks. I muted it and then I put it on full screen and it comes back. Hey, what's good, family? How you doing, Skinny? John Uri. So tonight we are going to talk about RB power rankings for entering Nationals. So for those of you who don't follow me and don't usually follow see what I do, I tend to do a power rankings for the league stuff we do around here. It's just pure opinion, just like based on where teams are sitting at the moment, how things are looking going into games, momentum, tons of factors. It just usually is something that I come with on a whim and run with it. For B and A, I've decided that I want to do two different rankings. One where both where it's top 5, and I want to say it's top 5 as a starting point. With B, like there's not a lot of consistent teams throughout the year. Some teams drop in and out.
Especially this year.
This is a weird year for circuit ball. It's crazy to think about. Atlantic City, we had 38 B teams signed up. Yeah. And we're only going to get 26 come Nationals. And I'm not sure how many of those were actually listed for AC. But it's crazy to think, like, how much the game was growing up to that point. This probably could have been one of the best Nationals on terms of team attendance ever, if not for COVID, really.
Right.
When you look at the trend and direction that 9-man was heading to leading up to AC. Usually this is the part where we recap all the tournaments, but the only real B tournaments that happened this year was, well, one day of Corona 2, I suppose. And that was really it. There was no real B bracket this year.
Right.
There was for a little bit in Corona Classic, but we didn't get a chance to finish that. So can't really talk much about it, but we can factor in some of the results from what we saw day one, because that was a very competitive tournament. Because we did have some tournaments this year. We had Clash of York as well. Clash of York was a big deal around here. One of the bigger DMV tournaments of the year. Ironically enough, though, played in Pennsylvania. We had some kind of 9-man season, but one where going into this Nationals, I feel like it's going to be hard for a lot of teams to prep for the teams they are facing.
Right.
Because unless you see the footage that I post, you don't really see, or even what Jerome Russo posts, or what, someone anonymously walking by and filming posts.
Right.
You don't want to get much exposure for a lot of teams. And as we take a look at these B teams, we're going to get an idea of what kind of talent we'll have. So let's go ahead and share screen real quick. Perfect. We are screen sharing right now. I cropped a picture from the post a couple days ago. So it looks like these are the 26 teams for B Nationals. Starting out the very top. It's all right. You almost pulled a scholar.
Got it real quick.
But we got Rampage on the top list here. This is not my rankings, by the way. This is just what Jamie had everybody listed as. Rampage, who we got to see several times throughout the year, actually. Yeah, we actually played against Rampage. Well, the name said Rampage. Yeah, let's put it that way. We're not going to factor much from Summer Showdown into this. That was quite an interesting tournament. Looking back, though, we'll try to take consideration everything that happened. Like I said, league play, tournaments, etc. Throughout the year. But the other teams in this B bracket, you got Ride Out, who I only saw once this year. That was over in the MAFL playoffs. They lost to the WAC Rebels.
Ride Out as a whole didn't really play too much, did they?
They played about 8 games in MAFL this year, I do believe. Yeah, they didn't play any tournaments either. Before that, the last time they played was against Scorpions at Worlds last year.
You never know what Lionel has up his sleeve.
Never know it. You never know, man. I think they'll be fine. Like, this is a team coming off a semifinal appearance at last year's tournament.
Right.
Then you got Dream, who is out of MAFL. I haven't had it. I think Dream was on the field the same day I was down there, but I didn't get a chance to watch them, so I can't really give too much on them. But I'm trying to remember who they're from. They're from another team. I do remember that. If anybody in the comments knows, let me know. I just can't remember offhand who they were from originally. Then after that, it's MD Titans. I've been watching the Titans for many years.
Yeah.
They were one of the first circuit teams I saw. They came to Hagerstown 2016 and won that. Not sure how. I don't think they've really won much since then in terms of winning in the last couple of years, like tournament wise. But they're an old head team. They're a vet team. They're always going to come out there and play. AFN is after that. Madness is where they're from. Okay. So Dream is Madness. Okay. Yeah, Madness, who they did make day 3, but they got waxed by Renegades on day 3. But that's a tough draw early in the morning, Renegades. But yeah, we got AFN here.
AFN.
Yeah, Ross and I have been around the affiliate nation for a long time. Yeah, we've seen them through the very beginning till now.
They play good ball.
Yeah. But this year, they haven't quite been AFN.
Right.
Just something's different.
It's gonna be interesting to see
Yeah.
what the roster is.
FOE after that. FOE, they played an OMFFL this year, had a tough time down there. Ended up being knocked out by Venom in the playoffs, going one and done. Other than that, I didn't really get a chance to see him much. I think I covered their game with Rampage. I think Rampage, they had a walkthrough on that one. But we'll see how FOE comes out come Nationals. Team Petty as well. Team Petty's always going to be giving a fight. They're always going to be having a good game. Yeah, those guys are tough. Those guys are physical. They will play their asses off. Really look forward to seeing what they got. They had a really good game of Illuminati last year that we'll have in the World documentary coming out next week. Um, really looking forward to seeing them in this upcoming tournament. I saw them. They a couple of them were playing on Grimies back in OMFFL beginning of the season, but I ultimately didn't see Petty until Maffle later on when they played the WAC Rebels in the playoffs. The Rebels victory there. So curious to see how they come out. Blackhawks, they are the Maffle champions, but their Maffle team, they got some pieces on there this year that they're not going to have come B Nationals. So are we going to get more of a Blackhawks team that we saw in Maffle this year that won it, or are we going to see more of the Blackhawks we saw at Clash of York?
Right.
Because you remember that they did get a victory. They knocked off AFN on day one, but day two against Baez Auto.
Yeah, I filmed that game.
Yeah, and you saw how it went for the Blackhawks. We'll see how they come out. This next team, Renegades. What a year the Renegades have had. Yeah. The Renegades have played some awesome ball. Yeah. They had an early exit for the most part. They were out in the Sweet 16 at Nationals last year, but tough draw. They had to play AFN that morning. Right. After they played Madness. And so, Renegades this year, they have played some excellent ball. They finished third place, fourth place roughly in the OMFFL, falling to Scorpions in the semifinals. They defeated Aftermath in the Clash of York Championship. And Scorpions along the way, too. Let's not forget, in tournament play this year, they have defeated two teams that are playing in the A bracket in the form of Scorpions and Aftermath. And, big shout out to their quarterback, Jaleel, man. He has really stepped it up this year in his first year. He has balled out, and this Renegades offense is reinvented, and they look good. They look really good going into this tournament. When you look at the body of work they were putting in the fall as well as when they played in Clash of York. They went undefeated that weekend. They went twice over the Titans. They beat Scorpions. They beat Aftermath. They went out there and balled out. Elite Rebels. I believe this is BC Elite WAC Rebels. They played together in Summer Showdown, actually. Back in July, we had that tournament. My team Blunt Talk, we actually played against them. A 20-12 Rebels victory. They got second place in that tournament. They balled out. They had some great players. WAC Rebels had a nice team down in Maffle this year on terms of what they did in the playoffs. Had a good run. Curious to see what pieces they got coming in. Curious to see what this team looks like as a whole. There's a lot of potential to it. I think it's going to be great. Looking forward as a whole and seeing what they got. After that, we got No Excuses from Miami. Don't know much about them. I'm going to try to Google them a little bit and see what I can find out in the next couple of weeks, because we're going to have a couple more shows after this. Expect a whole lot of shows leading up to Nationals. Should be a good time. But No Excuses out of Miami. We'll see what they got. Steel. I got a little bit of Steel last year, National. I caught a little bit of them. Don't really know much about them on terms of like who they got and how they play and all that. Haven't really seen them yet. So it'll be a newer team for me. Like I said, I only maybe got a glimpse of them at Nationals last year, but not really enough to make any comments on them. Rhode Island Spartans. I actually watched a little bit of them last year at Nationals. They had the cowbell. That's all I remember. They had that cowbell. I'm sorry. That cowbell stands out to me a lot more than anything else from watching the Rhode Island Spartans. But they were some good ballers. They had some good talent on that team. They definitely could play. They definitely have some tough talent. Looking forward to seeing how they come out and play. That cowbell though. Oh man, that cowbell. That's all I remember. That was great. um Beast mode after that. Um I haven't really gotten a chance to see beast mode yet either. Um but they definitely have a lot of potential to make a run from what I've heard. I'm looking forward to getting a chance to see them come nationals. Um Riot Squad as well. That's another team who I really haven't gotten a chance to see much of, but I've heard a lot of good things, read a lot of good things, so looking forward to seeing how they come out. 401 Pressure. First time I've heard that name, so I can't really say anything on them. The Ducks, they've been playing for a good while now. They have a good squad. They performed pretty well at Corona. Look forward to seeing how they come out for this one. Baez Auto, who you could say that they had the advantage of being at York, but they had a pretty good run at Clash of York. Got to the semifinals, competed with Aftermath in both games. Had a shot there to beat Aftermath in that semis. It could have been Baez Renegades for the championship, but just fell short. Team has been on the up and up the last couple of years. Got to the Elite Eight last year following the Nomads. Really look forward to seeing how Baez Auto comes out this year. After that, we got Nomads coming in next. They got to the Final Four last year. Had a big lead on NTB Wolfpack. Looked like they were heading to the finals, but the Wolfpack with that comeback. We'll have more on NTB later, but Nomads, they balled out at Corona 2. They had a plus 53 on day one. They have a lot of skill, talent, and experience, man. We're not too far removed from that national championship. Trust me, a lot of people up Hagerstown remember that. St. Louis Pack, Skinny mentioned, runner-up to the Maryland Bullets in the 2018 title game. Looking forward to seeing how they come out and play this year. Looking forward to actually trying to see when we get you guys on here for coverage soon, Skinny. Like to see how St. Louis looking coming into this tournament. You guys are on your own island out there. Nobody knows what goes on in St. Louis on terms of all the talent they got. They just get a glimpse of it on the lives. They don't know for sure what you guys have coming. Show Me Football, they were there last year. I didn't get a much good look at them, though. So looking forward to seeing how they came out. St. Louis Spartans. I watched a little bit of their league play this year up in the St. Louis 9-man. Curious to see how they come out. See if they're the better Spartans over the Rhode Island ones. That'd be a nice little matchup to see. Birmingham Heat after that. Saw a little bit of the Heat last year. Oh, it's a new team for Show Me. Okay, so it's not the same one I saw last year then. Okay. So I thought there was a team last year in that one by the same name. But the Heat, got a glimpse of them as well. Definitely looking forward to seeing what they got. Only team out of Alabama. Good to see teams coming from all over the country and different states where 9-man usually is not at. We got NTB Wolfpack coming in. They're the runner-up in the national championship. You know, they're also the St. Louis 9-man champions. Got to give a big shout-out to the NTB Wolfpack. They have a lot of ballers. They play some damn good physical football. Really look forward to seeing how they come out at nationals. Bahamas Lions coming after that. I'm not sure which Bahamas team this is. They all kind of blurred to me a little bit from last year. I know there was 2 Bahamas teams in the Canary Islands, but I'm not sure which one this is. I like seeing teams coming from different places, man. Like, you look at this tournament, you got Bahamas, you got St. Louis, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New York. You got Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Florida, Alabama. I've said that twice, but it's just nice, man. It's just nice. And of course, Rob Lane and the Blazers coming in as the final spot. Deuce Dutch is going to be the coach. He's got a 9-man B chip once already. Can he do it again? He took second gen to the promised land. Can he take Blazers with Rob Lane?
He's the greatest coach of all time.
We'll see. We'll see.
See why he couldn't.
I'm a believer in Deuce. All right, let me get back to myself. Perfect. So there being said, Ross, those are your 26 teams in this tournament. Of the 26, only 16 will make it to Sunday. We'll have more of an analytical standpoint on what's going to happen in a few weeks. We're going to have this is going to be a slow buildup for Nationals over the next couple weeks. So let's go ahead and look at the power rankings that I kind of want to start as a recurring thing. So my power rankings for this case would work a little differently. I'm only going to rank 5 to start. And I say 5 because it's very tough to put together an entire body of work on what has been a largely regional game this year. Right. Because you take a look at it, 9-man's been divided into 3 regions this year. You got the North, you got the DMV, right. You got St. Louis. But somewhere in between, you got Miami, you got Birmingham, you got the Bahamas. Wow. You got a lot of teams coming from different places for this tournament where I don't know if they have leagues. What are they doing? I like it. Yeah.
All year.
Because, there's not been many. There's only been 3 9-man tournaments on terms of legitimate circuit-esque tournaments. Because, we've had our fair share of ones we made up. Summer Showdown.
I think everybody's been out there still balling.
We find games to play. We find ways to play.
I think everybody has them.
Yeah. And it's going to be curious to see how everybody comes out. But if I were to take a top 5 of who I think are the 5 best B teams entering this Nationals, based on what I've seen, what I've read, what I've heard this year, here's how I would put it. If I were to have a number 5, well, actually, let me pull up the list really quickly again. I'm going to take a look at the list again. Yeah, there we go. So you got the 26 teams. On there. And yeah, let me screen share it again. There we go.
Top 5, you said?
Top 5. So I'm going to start off by the ones who get honorable mentions. And what I mean by honorable mentions, ones who they are close to top 5. And it has a good, relatively good year. But I don't have them in the top 5 per se. Right. So here's what I got. Well, I want to keep 5 to start. Okay. Just the starting points. I want to keep A and B a little even to start. And I want to see how things look as 2021 goes on. Because this is something I want to do as a once a month deal or whatever after a tournament is played. Because, with 9-man B, you're going to have so many teams. I think we had 81 in 2019 alone. And when you take a look at the 81, you got teams on there who popped up for a tournament, never saw them again. Team popped up, merged with somebody else. We were on there.
Right.
We were on that list.
Right.
Jamie Wolf called us blunt. In the final rankings, he finished 53rd.
That's right.
53rd best team in the B bracket.
Out of how many?
Out of 81. So and then you put it to A's rankings, which is like 22 teams. We were the 75th best team in the country in 2019. TBT. But if I could be serious for a moment, taking a look at the list of teams who I feel like have potential going in, they could definitely crack it, but I got them looking outside right now. Right now, I got Rampage looking in from the outside. This is in no particular order, by the way. I am looking down to check the ones that I want to say, but it's in no particular order. Rampage, they're knocking on the door. They definitely have the potential and the talent to make a deep run this year. They ran into Scorpions last year. That derailed them in that quarterfinal of running the Scorpions. But, a whole year has gone by. They got some more talent coming in. They got some new talent. But so far, they've had their struggles. But their struggles have came against the A teams. They fell short to Aftermath in the OMFFL playoffs, semifinals, losing on the final play when the game was well in their hands. They lost to Scorpions again in the Clash of York. In the quarterfinals again.
Right.
The good news is there's no Scorpions in this one. The potential is definitely there, but if I were to base it off what I've seen this year, I got them just a little bit on the outside. Just a little bit. After that, I'm going to put Ride Out on the outside as well. Ride Out, they went 7-1 in Maffle. But one and done in the playoffs. They lost to the WAC Rebels. Tough draw, though. That Rebels team was way better than that record suggested. But Ride Out, they got to the semifinals last year. They were Charm City B bracket runner-up. This year, they haven't quite had much opportunities to show what they could do. They didn't play in York, for instance. They've gotten some games in Maffle in. They definitely still have the talent and the ballers, don't get me wrong. But if you're going to go based on what we've seen so far this year, I got them just a little outside the top 5. But we'll see how they come out. Yeah. We'll see how they come out. Another team that deserves an honorable mention, Elite Rebels. They definitely deserve a look or two going into this, especially if it is something similar to what we saw in that Summer Showdown tournament back in July. I really look forward to seeing what they have coming into it. The potential is definitely there. The talent is definitely there. Yeah. It's going to be intriguing to see what they can do. I definitely think they have the potential. But I got them outside the top 5 for now. Just for now. And like I said, this is just purely based on what I've seen so far this year. And it's been an odd year to rank, and it's kind of an odd place to start a ranking system. But it's a preseason thing. Moving on now, the other teams I got just a little outside the top 5. Baez Auto, only for a brief second. Because they did have that run in York. But like I said, it's a hometown tournament, but, they showed potential. There definitely is a talent they can pull from up there. They got to the quarterfinals last year, but they haven't been able to play much 9-man. York was their only tournament. The potential's there, but we'll see where it gets them. And outside of that, that's all I got. Those are the teams looking outside. Like I said, no particular order. Like in that area, it's all gray. So here's what we got in the countdown. Number 5, I'm going to go with the Ducks. They play competitive ball against teams in the A up in Corona 1. Did pretty well enough in Corona 2. Unfortunately, we didn't see how they could do on day 2. I think the Ducks definitely have a shot going in. They played pretty well enough this year. I think they're going to do some work. I really look forward to seeing how they come out and play. Yeah. Number 4, I'm going to go with Nomads. Nomads, like I said, they definitely had a shot to win it all last year. They had the NTB game right in their hands, but it slipped their way. They did play at Corona 2, went 2-0 on the day, had a plus 53 on that day 1. But with Nomads, that's all they had. But at the same time, the potential was way there. They busted their ass. You can't sit there and not recognize what they did. Semifinalists last year at Nationals. They definitely got the resume. I'm going to go with Nomad sitting there at number 4. Number 3 is going to be the NTB Wolfpack. St. Louis 9-man champion. B bracket runner-up. They were right there with the Scorpions in that championship game. That was a tough competitive game. They had a hell of a run that Sunday, beating Combined Forces, AFN, and Nomads. NTB Wolfpack, they definitely have the talent and what it takes. So, like I said, a lot of people, for the most part, may not know about them because they're based out of St. Louis, and they had that big run last year, though, at Nationals. St. Louis, they tend to get teams into the championship. They can win out there. The gateway to the best might be, or the West might be the gateway to the best.
They play flag football out there, that's for sure.
Yeah. Definitely a good. I don't think anyone could be sleeping on them at this point, though.
I would hope not.
Number 2, I'm going to go with the New Jersey Blazers. Like I said, Rob Lane, Deuce Dutch, quite a combo. You got a team who did well enough over in Corona 2. Rob Lane and company playing A bracket ball. They definitely have the resume coming into this tournament. They definitely can win it. We're going to talk more on that in a few weeks. I look forward to seeing how they look at Nationals. Yeah. And right now, though, for number 1, I'm going to go with the only team who has in this one an actual tournament championship this year. And that's Renegades, who won Clash of York. I'm going to go with the Renegades. You look at the resume they did this year. They got to the Clash of York championship. They beat 2 A bracket teams back-to-back to win it in the form of Scorpions and Aftermath. Scorpions, the B national champion. OMFFL, they were 3rd place, fell to the Scorpions in the semifinals. Yeah. Renegades definitely showed out this year. They definitely showed they can compete. And I feel like if we were to do a preseason poll entering all this, I'd get them at number 1 based on what I saw in the last couple months. Because you got to think, we've really only had a season since late July, early August. But if you look at the resume and what they've done, I think Renegades have the strong case number 1 entering this tournament. Yeah. I look forward to seeing how it goes. I think it's going to be a great time. Like I said, this is going to change pretty heavily, possibly, by the time the tournament's done. Because who knows who could sneak up?
Right.
We'll see as we continue to cover the B over the course of the next 2 weeks. Till next time, I'm Joey Blaze. We'll see you in about, say, 13 minutes. Yeah, 13 minutes. Let's see if I can get out of this. There we go. Stop share. Peace.
And here we go.
And here we go.
And there it is.
There it is. Let's get it going.
A bracket.
Yeah, you know, the upper bracket of this tournament. Top 13 teams in the country, technically speaking.
How many teams is it? 13?
13 teams.
Yes, who's going to win? Helps prediction.
I don't think so in this tournament. Let's not say that.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, less teams, but only 8 make it to Sunday.
Right.
And it's going to be interesting to see what those 8 teams are. As we talked about in the B episode, A bracket ball this year, like I said, there's been real no sense of actual divisions. You know, Corona won up in New York. That was a tournament where it was open to anybody that wasn't in a illegal state to travel from. Corona 2, there wasn't A and B, so you managed to get some North teams in there. And even a DMV team, 7-point spread, traveled up there and played in Corona 2. Down here, you had Scorpions and Aftermath as the 2 A teams running around. As mentioned, they ended up facing off in the LMFFL championship game. But other than that, not really much for the A bracket to talk about. But that being said, so much to talk about it going in, however, on terms of what can be in this tournament. Let's take a look at what we got. There we go. These are the 13 teams coming into the tournament. You got Lions, who is, of course, the runner-up to last year's national championship, falling short to second gen, and what perhaps was the greatest 9-man game I've seen. Just a fantastic game. Yeah, I was there. So close were the Lions to being national champions. Yeah. It was great. That was a great game.
I do. I remember watching it.
Yeah. You also have Main Event, who, of course, semifinalists last year in the tournament. Main Event, they played a little bit. The only tournament they played for 9-man was Corona 2 this year since Nationals. A 1-1 effort is what they had there, but a tough matchup against the Rollers, though. They had a really tough matchup of Rollers in what was an excellent game. Punishers, who they had a pretty good year if you look at the franchise itself. I mean, Eric and company, they won Corona 1. They had some help along the way from some other guys in there. But, you know, that's going to always say Punishers. But even then, Corona 2, they were balling out before everything was postponed. They were number 1 overall. Most points scored, least points allowed. We talked about how dominant Nomads were in B. Punishers were dominating in A leading up to that.
Right.
Lest we not forget. And, of course, semifinalists last year, Nationals too, falling to second gen. In a game that I actually got a chance to finally watch a couple of days ago when I was finishing No Touches on the World's documentary due out next Friday. Fantastic game that was between second gen and Punishers. Could have gone either way. Punishers had a great weekend last year. SI Bulldogs. They've had a bit of an odd journey coming into this. We look back at last year's Nationals. They got off to a good start. They beat on Back in Black. They beat on the Vikings. Then they ran in the main event, and for about 3/4 and 7 minutes, they were looking like they were cruising the victory. They had a 2-touchdown lead on main event. There was 5 minutes to go, but main event never gave up. They rallied back, 2 touchdowns, 15 points, 29-28. Next day, Strong Island was one and done on Sunday. Punishers with the shutdout, 17-0 win. And, Strong Island's played some 9-man since, but you look back at that stretch they had at Nationals last year, they were outscored 32-0 in 53 minutes of play to end Nationals last year. And that's crazy when you think about the run that team had. But you look at it, I mean, they got to the semifinals in Corona 1. Corona 2, they were sitting at 1-1, -13. We'll see where they go. We'll see. Do they have Birdman back? That is the question. Right. Is Birdman returning? Is this his redemption shot? Because you remember, Birdman hasn't had a touchdown in 9-man since the 5-minute mark of the 4th quarter against main event last year in day 2. And that's been nearly a year. But of course, he's coming off injury as well and not many games played. But it's crazy to think about that. We'll see how he comes out if he is the quarterback. We don't know yet. We will see when they release the rosters in a couple of days. That's going to be interesting to watch out for. Because if he is, look out. 7-point spread, former national champions. They went up down there and won in 2017. They went up to Corona 1 and they were putting in some work up there. Corona 2, sorry. They've reinvented their offense a little bit. We're looking forward to see what 7-point brings to the table for this one. They've always had that team who's in there. Curious to see how they do this time around at Nationals. Yeah. They fell to the Lions, I believe, in the quarterfinals last year at Nationals. Gladiators. Last year, they got to the quarterfinals as well. Fell to second gen. Had about a +5 on Corona 2 in that first weekend. Other than that, not much 9-mans have played. And, this Gladiators team is not, they're going to have some new pieces, Ross. Some familiar faces to us here in the 4th state. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing how yeah, this is going to be different. This is going to be a team that's going to be hard to call early on. We'll see how they come out, though. It's going to be really interesting. Aftermath. We had a chance to cover Aftermath and OMFFL this year, as well as Clash of York. Second place in OMFFL. Did not perform very well at Nationals last year, though. They did not make day 3. They were obliterated. Lions on Friday night, they mauled them 34-0. That game was just never close. Can they bounce back from a poor performance last year and do better this time around? As mentioned, they've had a good year down here. They got second in OMFFL, falling to Scorpions in the championship. Second in Clash of York, falling to Renegades. But does that bode well going into this tournament? You think about it. Second place in what is a very B-heavy area. But, I've heard Aftermath might be looking a little different come tournament time. We'll see. We'll see what they have this time around. I look forward to seeing it. All right. Scorpions, defending B national champions, trying to pull a second gen here. Trying to go B-A back-to-back.
Yeah.
Tough road for Greg Proctor, though. It took him 46 years to win B. Can it take him a year to win A? Might be a while. This is gonna be It's gonna be interesting. You know, Greg, he's played A ball before. He's not familiar. He's not a stranger to it. But it's gonna be interesting to see how they do. Scorpions, you know, OMFL champions. They dominated that league very easily, very well. They were challenged a little bit in the playoffs, but for the most part, they just had their way throughout the year. Only real slip up was the Renegades in the semifinals of Clash of York. You know, that interception Proctor threw. You were right there when he threw it.
Yeah.
That costly pick at the end of that game.
Good old crap.
Yeah. Looking forward to seeing how the Scorpions come out here in this tournament. 148 Outlaws. I haven't had a chance to really see much into them. I did watch their game against the Demons, I believe, from the Rhode Island Flag Bowl last year when I was editing episode 1 of the documentary on Worlds. Really looking forward to seeing how they do transition to A. They've been around for a long while from what I was reading the other day. I think someone told me they've been around since the 80s. Don't quote me 100% on that. This is what I was reading the comments.
That's true. Wow.
Yeah, so they definitely have like the long-term talent and pedigree to definitely do well going into this tournament. Looking forward to seeing what they got. Takeover as well. They were balling at Corona too. They annihilated the Lions, I do believe, in one of their games they faced off at in that tournament. We're looking forward to seeing what they got coming into this one. Alliance as well. I don't really got much comments on Alliance. A team I don't really see much of yet. So looking forward to seeing what they got. High Rollers, you know, Matt Bailey and company, they're going to have a lot going for them. They got a lot of talent. They got a lot of ballers. They were second place in the Corona 1 tournament, and they were doing pretty well in Corona 2 before it was called. So they got a really strong case for being one of the top 5 teams entering this one.
All right.
And of course you got Texas Prime. They're from Texas. Not sure what they're going to have, but you know, a lot of talent comes from that state, man. It's Texas. There's football players all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of how they play the 9-man game, especially on the A circuit. I mean, this is the best of the best. So, yeah, really looking forward to seeing just how this all goes. So those are the 13 teams. I'm going to keep this up, actually. I thought about taking it down, but you don't need to see my face that much. So the 13, if I were to take 5 and rank them based on what little of a year that they've really had to play up there for the most part, you know, you look at the teams in this, Aftermath and Scorpions, they've had the most playing time this year in terms of 9-man coming into this. But when you look at the body of work, it's not enough, in my opinion, for either of them to crack the top 5. Don't get me wrong, you know. They could have something. Scorpions, you know, they could be a sleeper. Aftermath, you know, maybe they'll find something different. Maybe something good better for them this year. But I don't see it. They've had the most games played, but I don't think they've had enough to make a strong case to get in there. I think if you were to take a look at overall talent and where teams stand and how some of the results went, because this was even harder to do than the B one. You know, this was even more harder to do than B was. But if I were to take a look at it and evaluate it, I'd have to say of the teams who just missed the cut, Lions would be Lions and Strong Island were close to me in that regard. Like I had them both kind of sitting at a tie for fifth. It's close. Lions, they are the runner-up to last year's national championship. We know they're going to be ready. We saw, and the only results we really have for them since then was Corona 2, where they went 0-2 on that weekend. But we don't know what they had coming for day 2. We don't know what could have been. But from what we've seen so far, I would say like they're close. Strong Island, like we said, the potential's there. We saw what Birdman could do in that summer of 2019 when he had them in 3 consecutive championship games in less than a 2-month span, actually. But it's tough. It really is. And the stream just kicked off or something. I don't know. No, there it is. We're back. It's just my phone. I wasn't sure if it was live or not. But I'd say it's close in that position based on what has happened so far leading up to this.
Right.
Yeah. Like I said, we don't have much of a body of work to go off of. But they're definitely going to have a shot up there. Strong Island, I said, they can get back into form. I'd say fourth coming in based on what we've seen. Main event, they're going to have everybody there. They're going to be locked and loaded. I feel like they definitely have what it takes. They were close to beating Lions last year in that semifinal game. That controversial field goal at the end, that block, the penalty, everything else, that really killed them in that game. But they haven't really had a chance to play 9-man much this year. They have been playing other styles though. They've been playing 8-man, they've been playing 5-man, they've been traveling, they've been playing 7-man, the different variations, albeit different rosters. But I feel like coming into this, they have what it takes. But based on what we've seen so far coming in, just a little bit around fourth. But like I said, it's tough. It's a competitive league. It's a very competitive league. This is the top level of 9-man for a reason.
Yes, it is.
And it's in a season where, for the most part, everybody on here has played less than 4 games. For the most part. Like I said, it's all pure speculation, just a starting point to get to an eventual endpoint. Number 3, Takeover. They were playing pretty well up in Corona 2. They've been playing pretty well up there for the most part of the North all year. I like what they got coming in. They got a lot of potential. I think they definitely have what it takes, but we'll see how it goes. Number 2, I'm going to have to go with Rollers. They were runner-up in Corona 1. They definitely put on a show for the most part of Corona 2. We don't know what could have happened on month 2 with that tournament. They're going to have Bailey on there playing quarterback. Like, it's hard to really sell them short coming into this. They definitely have momentum coming in. We'll see how far it carries them. Can they get to Sunday? We'll see. And number 1, based on body of work, Punishers, you can say what you want about the championship they had at Corona 1, but they were showing in Corona 2 that they were just playing on the same level, just as good. We don't know where it could have ended at. They could have gone one and done. They could have won it all. But if I were to go based on that, what we've seen and what's been a very, very, it's like college football right now.
And I feel like they've probably only gotten better since then.
Yeah, and they showed that they could definitely compete last year. Like, that Punishers team was making a big statement at Nationals last year. They, especially after they beat Strong Island, but they fell short to a lightning rod in second gen. We'll see where it goes, though. We'll see how everybody performs. We're going to have more coverage of it over the next couple of weeks. Tune in next Wednesday night when we do a bracket media night. Till then, I'm Joey Blaze. We'll see you next week and the next few weeks for more Nationals coverage.